This ain't no audiobook. This ain't a radio play. This is a Happy Cloud AudioToon. It's that time again for the Further Adventures of Rune, Return of the Miggins, brought to you by Happy Cloud Media and Chrome Toothpaste. Chapter 33, A Field in AZTURNATH. The Miggins dove for cover beneath an outcropping, dodging the plummeting and screaming and subsequently splattering Redcap pikemen. One after another, dozens upon dozens, their battle cries abruptly halting upon meeting the ground face first. Leroy Jenkins! What the snee? The Gax demanded, holding his Schrodinger's guide above his head as an umbrella. They're making like lemmings! That's a fallacy, said Dusty. I have among my family, by marriage of course, many a lemming, and not one of them has hurled themselves off a cliff. Not even Stan, who married your cousin Steffi? Be nice, love, they gave us a crock pot for St. Miggins Day. Oh, fine. The pile of dead redcaps grew higher, with the corpses on the bottom, providing only slight cushion for the next wave. The higher the body hill went, the more twitching and moaning and complaining. What started as a gross mess became quite the tragedy. Or it would be tragic, were it not a heap of dead and dying redcaps. Rune growled at the predicament. We stay here any longer, we're gonna get sealed in. Buried beneath redcaps. Too horrible to even consider. Covering their heads with their cloaks, protection from splash more than anything else, the Miggins sped from the overhang and made again for the trees. Redcap bodies exploded around them. Within the shelter of the trees, they watched the redcaps fling themselves from the cliff above. Every so often, the wave of suicides would pause, until was heard a distant "George!" And then the downpour resumed. 98, 99, well there it is, that's at least 100, said Scarlet. She looked at Circe, who simply shrugged.
Don't look at me. Redcaps don't go to Dismadonna.
Looks like there's a path snaking up the side of the hill there, said Rune, peering through his doom marble for a better view. I want to figure out what they're doing. Whatever it is, it's not working. Scarlet, Dusty, with me. Betty, Circe, Gax, we'll signal if it's safe. What's the signal, boss? How about I scream, it's safe? Yeah, that'll work. Stealthily, the trio made their way up the narrow path circling around the hill and the cliffside above. Using the trees as cover, they crouched down and found a proper vista. Outside the trees was a wide, verdant field occupied by two groups. Closer to the edge were hundreds more redcaps, armed and grumbling and miserable. Further afield were armor-clad warriors, both humanish and morphs, astride non-morphic and grazing battle bovines. At the head of the herd, sitting tall upon the mightiest war cow, was the obvious leader. They heard this leader say, "Come on now, gentlemen, I really don't think you want this bad enough." Rune and Scarlet exchanged glances while Dusty watched a butterfly skitter across a daffodil. Another wave of redcaps stormed the cliffside, leaping as far as they could into the air before dropping like any other object off the side of the cliff. What the hey? Fellas, you know, said the cowman with mock disappointment. See, your hearts just don't seem into this. I don't believe you're a superior species. I just don't see it. Top of the food chain types typically should be able to fly. You come up, try to round up the mooish, you better be able to back that up with some supreme genetics. This is just obscene. Obscenity is against the law around here. I should know. A cow person to his left snickered. A dozen or so redcaps screwed their courage to the sticking place, charged the air, and succumbed to gravity. Parlay? Scarlet asked Rune. Rune nodded. They sent Dusty. I say, my good man, pardon the intrusion. Sure, hey, fellas, take 5. Well, don't. Never mind. Keep trying. You'll get it. The lead cowman turned to Dusty. Sup, Buttercup? Well, my companions and I were on our way to the Godteeth Mountains, and we happened to observe your little springtime activity here. Thought we'd take the opportunity to applaud and learn from your methods. Oh yeah? You with that army over on the ridge waiting to descend on Balls Deep? Indeed we are, my good sir, and who might you be? Well, I might be Susan Sontag, only better dressed, said the cowman, drawing his sword. Dusty was surrounded by armored cows with riders astride, with lots of pointy things jabbing in his direction. Or just maybe, I'm Lenny the Bruce, lord of the Cowclans, from the Miles Cud. He patted his armor-clad steed beneath him, sleepily chewing grass. And this here is Bossy. Bossy the Destroyer. Lenny the Bruce stared down at Dusty, lit a cigarette. We're the sworn allies of Balls Deep, so if you're part of that army, he jerked a thumb over his shoulder at the remaining redcaps, who were discussing strategy, deciding that running off the cliff even faster might do the trick. That means you're with them. Dusty looked from one spear tip to the other. He flashed his most winning smile and said, Chief, could use your input here. Rune and Scarlet emerged from the woods, prodded along by Cowclansmen. Lenny the Bruce smiled down at his captives. You guys mooish, 'cause, you don't look mooish. Chapter 34, The Cowclan Camp. The rest of the Miggins were also rounded up by the Cowclansmen foreriders, if by rounded up one meant accidentally run into in the forest and also soiled themselves upon meeting the half-mountain Betty and the goddess of the dead. The Gax they were okay with. The advance team returned to the camp with the prisoners in tow, or rather, Betty carried both Cowclansmen and cows up the path and deposited them at the campsite. Oi, Rune, said Betty Yeti Skull. Lenny the Bruce nodded his approval and cocked his thumb at Betty. Now that's mooish. The others exchanged glances, sensing a bit coming on. They weren't disappointed. Let me explain mooish and goyish to you, said Lenny the Bruce, his patter like a hip drum beat. The cows seemed to chew in time. Goy, one who is not of the mooish faith. Second accepted definition, uncivilized. Actual definition, a contraction for go away. But we're trying our own civility here. Let me show you how it works. Battle marches are goyish. The classical fiasco, mooish. The Navy is goyish. The Luke Cavalry is goyish. The Air Corps is mooish. Camel cigarettes, very goyish. Froda's cigarettes, mooish. Morphia, scary goyish. Flinder and wine, mooish, but only on the high holidays. Scarlet took up the conversational reins. Circling back, why do you think that we're on the side of the Redcaps? She indicated the quivering heap at the bottom of the gully. Lenny the Bruce had convinced every last one of the blurkers to jump. That army camped up there on the Gold Teeth Ridge ain't no secret, though. Moro Milo here saw them for himself on the first night, didn't you, Milo? Sure did, Lenny, said Moro Milo, delivering his only line. We don't ally with Redcaps, friend, said Rune with a mild snarl. Don't repeat the insult. Lenny the Bruce held Rune's gaze. Finally, he nodded and tossed up his hands in surrender. Okay, truce. He lit a new cigarette off the butt of his last. Let's not make a royal case out of it. All right, Spill, what do you got up there? More than just some bedraggled holy warriors and the, weird tree chicks?
Suck you, dryads.
Frost crept up between them and extinguished part of the fire. He pointed at her with respect. Crazy, so why are you attacking Balls Deep? There's a necromancer taking refuge up there. He's oppressing the villagers within. Lenny the Bruce looked at Moro Milo, who shrugged because he'd already delivered his only line. News to us. There was this one blurg sucker sort of sleazing around there a fleet or two back, but I heard Meredith expelled him. Is Meredith the governor there? Balls Deep is a matriarchal representative democracy. But yeah, Meredith usually takes care of stuff like kicking out necromancers. And the St. Miggins parties, which are definitely goyish, but who doesn't like a good party? And you think our army is invading Balls Deep? Lenny the Bruce shrugged. Been a while since I talked to Meredith personally, and yeah, I dig the whole thing you guys got going here. But I'm telling you, if there's a necromancer in Balls Deep, and the villagers haven't already expelled him, sorry cats and kittens, but it's already too late. Rune chose to ignore the blatant racism in the slang. Dusty clapped the Cowclansman on the shoulder. Well, have no fear, good Lenny the Bruce, for I give you my word that we're on the just side of righteousness. Lenny the Bruce shot a glance at Rune, jerked his thumb at Dusty. Lawful good? Obviously. Is that goyish or mooish? Mooish, but after a few drinks. Rune frowned and conferred with his companions, except for Betty, who, having sucked the remaining marrow from Lord Leto's spine, chose to stretch out by the fire, freezing out half the company. If we do nothing, and Grimfoil is in the keep, it could be the end of the world as we know it. That's great, said the Gax with a sigh. Circe, who'd seen her share of apocalypses, thought back to the last cataclysm.
It starts with an earthquake.
Birds and snakes? Asked Scarlet, with no small amount of sarcasm. Aeroplanes? Asked Dusty, hopefully. Lenny the Bruce is not afraid, said Moro Milo, stealing a second line from an extra. Rune threw up his hands. I had a hurricane. Lenny the Bruce marveled at their despair. Listen to yourselves churn, he said. World serves its own needs. He flicked out the butt of his cigarette into the fire, looked at them gravely. Don't misserve your own needs. Speed it up a notch. Speak. Grunt. No strength. He spread his hands and shrugged, and since nobody else knew the rest of the lyrics, they settled into indecision. Elsewhere, the ladder started to clatter with a fear of height, whatever that meant. Come sunup, the Miggins would finally rejoin their troops. The army would assemble, as would the Succu Dryads. Though Rune was hesitant to declare victory, the plans were solid. Their forces were strong. With Betty at their backs and Xhadow aiding them in breaching the keep walls, with or without the clansmen, they were practically unstoppable. There is nothing more stressful than impending success. Leonard Bernstein, said Dusty, but nobody knew why. Thus concludes this episode of the Further Adventures of Rune. Tune in next week via your favorite audio delivery system. Don't forget, full episodes and super mega chunks are available on Patreon. But you knew that already.